A very good day, everyone. As a part of the PGDMGM program of XLRI Jamshedpur, I, Shiny Bhattacharya, have the extreme privilege of hosting today's conversation with Mr. Priyankar Ray Chaudhuri, Gen AI lead at Accenture. Our guest today, a seasoned strategy consultant and a leader currently driving business transformation in Gen AI at Accenture. With his formidable academic career at ISB and engineering from Jadavpur University, he brings a rare dual lens of technical rigor and strategic foresight. He has spent years navigating the complex intersection of digital innovation and business value, making him the perfect voice to guide us through the challenges of building a responsible AI for the next decade. So just warming up as we get into the conversation, you have been working in the industry for so long and you have been working on such complex business strategies. So how would you say looking back at your time when you joined when you joined your corporate career and compare it to now, how would you say that did you imagine that AI would become such a huge part of every conversation that we have today? We talk about AI at least once, it comes up in every single conversation. Did you think that this transformation would come up to such a huge level when you started your career?
See, when I started my career, there was not really much of an influence of AI, right? As I grew, I did figure out that AI was going to play an important role. But then what I did not anticipate is the speed at which AI has actually taken over, right? So, see, the technology curve was there. We all imagined it. But the adoption curve has been exponential. And that has kind of come as a surprise. So, maybe 5 years back, in a conversation with a client, AI was maybe a third priority thing to be done. But these days, you go to any client, you just have even an initial discussion. One of the questions they're going to ask is, okay, how does AI work with my current tech landscape? He's going to talk about the different guardrails, AI guardrails, the ethical practices, etc. So there's going to be a conversation around AI, which makes sense as well, because given where we stand, we are getting into a world where we'll have a human AI collaboration coming up, if it's not already come up. Definitely in the next 5 years, it's going to come up. So, again, coming back to a question, I think the technology curve was expected, but the adoption curve has been really exponential, and that's not something I did expect.
Yes, totally. So, like on a personal level, since you're working in digital strategy, as you mentioned, like just keeping away all the jargons related to AI separately, you said that the speed at which it has evolved, the technology of AI and it has evolved, is surprising to all of us. So would you say, is it sort of a good surprise, or is it something troubling because how problematic it would be for people around to adopt to the technology?
I think it's a bit of both, honestly. And I think the reason why we exist in this duality is because on the one hand, it is of course exciting because it throws up a plethora of opportunities. I mean, look at AI and look at the different sorts of roles it brings to the table. You have AI strategy and value narrative, which is one of the roles. And then you have the entire agentic AI orchestration, which is the actual execution. Then you have responsible AI. And then you have change management, which cuts across all pillars. Right. So there are so many opportunities which are coming up, and all these roles are different. So you can have technical folks, you can have non-technical folks as well, with who have an aptitude or an acumen towards tech, but with, let's say, a very strong domain experience in marketing or supply chain or anything. They can also join this AI bandwagon. So it's exciting. But at the same time, the reason why I get a bit apprehensive is because, look, we are scaling. But the question that comes to my mind is, are we scaling responsibly enough? The focus on responsible AI, even though we have had a lot of conversations around that, we are continuing to have a lot of conversations. But then there's a lot of gray area around that, right? Where are the frameworks? Do we really have defined frameworks there? So if it's a car we are riding, have we ensured that the brakes are foolproof, right? So what worries me is not the technology or the algorithm. What worries me is the governance, right? What worries me is that are we not having a situation, or are we having a situation where the governance is not good enough? Because at the end of the day, you can have any technology, but at the end of the day, technology is your enabler. It has to be driven by a human. So the governance rests with the human. The buck stops with the human, right? So technology is great, but if a human cannot control it, if the guardrails are not in place, then it can go haywire. So that explains why I'm both excited as well as apprehensive with the speed at which AI is coming up.
Yes, totally. So, since we are on the topic of trust in the technology itself, a core component of, say, trust comes from how would be able to explain the technology to the people who are using it or who are at the other end of receiving it. But AI and its problem with it is it's a black box. We often have like the most powerful AI systems, but the way they work is not transparent enough to the humans. So in your experience in advising leadership of companies, is there a hard trade-off emerging? So would you say that should companies accept a lower performing AI where they would be able to explain the working process, or should it be like the vice versa of it?
I think it depends on what is it that you're using AI for, right? And that's the enterprise value narrative that I was referring to in your last question. If you're using AI for low-level automation tasks, then I definitely prioritize performance. You don't need to get into the details of that. For example, you're approving all purchase orders under 10,000 rupees. Just giving an example from the procurement world, right? And you have an agent to do that. You focus on performance because that's where decision velocity matters, or the speed matters, right? However, if you're using agents or AI in general for something which has a longer, which has a more profound impact, right? Especially which related to something which has a financial impact, for example, right? That is where I feel the human intervention or doing a double click on that black box, as you mentioned, that is super important, right? That is when explainability becomes critical, right? So yeah, in a nutshell, what I feel is depending on the process you are looking to agentify, and I'm getting into agents here, or use AI for, that will actually decide whether your focus should be on performance or your focus should be on explainability. If I have to I err on the side of explainability, because my performance may get hampered, but I do not want a situation where my technology messes up something which has a profound impact just because it cannot explain something. So their explainability becomes critical.
So I like to move deeper into the same topics that we are discussing about regarding the explainability of AI in general. So in your capacity as a leader, you are often bridging the gap, say, between tech teams, and you are advising at the same time to business leaders on the other end. So when you're advising, say, clients or leading projects, how do you in your capacity operationalize a responsible AI? So is it like a checklist, or is it something that is inbuilt within the team that you're working with? Or is there a specific set of tools that you advocate for when you want to, say, work towards a responsible AI?
I think it's culture. It's not really a set of tools. I mean, tools, etc. are there, but I think responsible AI, or in general, the way we should approach AI, that is a cultural shift. It's a mindset shift. There will always be frameworks in place, okay, but because it's something very new, it has to be in your psyche, and that is governed by a cultural shift, which is typically top down in big organizations. So I think it has to be embedded in people that this is something we have to look forward to, that we necessarily need to have frameworks in place before we go ahead and even suggest AI to any of the stakeholders. We should talk to clients about the potential pitfalls of just having AI with guardrails. We should teach culture or the ability to have this culture of ethical AI embedded in clients as well, and that really comes from the organization first, or you first, so to say. So I think it's not tools, it's not frameworks. I think it's a culture which needs to first be embedded, after which these things will come up.
So we often hear about digital transformation that happens using AI, and these are huge buzzwords. But I'll try to get it down to the very basics of it. So transformation, we would know that it's a huge painful process to administer it from the end to end. But can you share a specific instance of you working with a specific client or in a project where the client itself was very skeptical to adapt to this particular technology, and where you had to build that trust within them to adapt to this technology at an early stage?
See, most clients are pretty skeptical with AI adoption for multiple reasons, right? So we spoke about the ethical aspect of it. There's data privacy, concerns around data, etc. But one of the things which will probably be more relevant in this conversation is that humans feel that they're going to lose their identity and control, and that's a common emotion I've seen with a lot of stakeholders from the client side in not one engagement, in multiple engagements. And do remember that I'm not saying loss of jobs. I'm not saying that people will get redundant. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that people feel that their sense of identity is at stake because it's the agents who are driving the show, right? Therefore, they lose a lot of control. That's what the apprehension stems from. So what I do in these cases is I have a very simple framework for this. I bring up a list of processes which that organization follows in whatever industry there is, right? I look at those processes and I tell them, okay, you tell me which processes among these do you think can easily be automated? You hate doing these processes because they are like tasks by rote. So which are these processes? And they say, suppose as I gave the example of purchase orders, they say purchase orders or less than 10,000 rupees, they should go for automatic approval. I said, okay, so these are the processes which you need to agentify. So do you really think you lose your sense of identity and control if you let agents drive this process? And then they say, no, I think this is okay. So that's the level of confidence you have to actually build. And that's actually a part of change management as well, that you need to ensure that people understand why is it that I'm doing it, or should I actually go ahead and agentify a process? But the problem is people say, the question they ask is, can I do it? It shouldn't be can I, it should always be should I agentify? And that really is the essence of not losing your identity and control, right? And the moment you take this sort of an approach, coaching people that you remain very relevant, because agents at the end of the day, or AI at the end of the day, is just an enabler. The buck stops with you. You are accountable, you are responsible for what the agent does, right? So you still remain in power, you still remain absolutely relevant, probably more relevant than what it was earlier. And that sort of a narrative kind of works on them. And then they realize that, okay, it's just another enabler, like I've used other tech enablers. Right. So I think that's something I've faced in a few places, and not necessarily at work. It's something which I face in common discussions as well, even outside work. When I chat to people about it, they all bring up this topic, and that's how I kind of try and alleviate these concerns. Because at the end of the day, human AI collaboration is something which is here to stay. So you can't kind of bypass it. So you will have to live with it. So we'll have to figure out ways and means that you are comfortable in living with it.
Yes, totally. So since we are on the topic of, we were just discussing change management now, you have, so we often talk about that we want people who understand the tech as well, and who also understand deeply how AI is going to impact the business part of our projects. So you bring that particular blend of your engineering background as well as your work experience that you have had over the years in business strategy. So how do you say that with your dual lens of both these things, is this very beneficial for you in spotting, say, the unintended consequences of an AI? So when it goes wrong, do you think that this is more beneficial for you in spotting these premises when it would go wrong than a person who just specifically focuses on the functionality of the business part of it, or somebody who is just technically looking towards how the AI is working? How does this dual lens help you in driving business strategy in AI?
I think I'll go back to my previous answer. Remember, I said, should I agentify a process is what I should actually be asking rather than can I. So my engineering degree probably helps me understand, can I do this? Can I do this technically? But my business management degree probably tells me, should I do that? Right? So that's the strategy part. And the strategy part should always come first in this aspect. Right? So I use my business management knowledge or my business process knowledge to talk to the clients and understand if they should even go ahead with this. If a process indeed needs to go through this AI rigor, because it comes at a cost, of course. And then it is the technical part which tells me, okay, if they decide to go ahead with it, then how does it fit in their tech landscape, so on and so forth. But that's a downstream thing. So yeah, it's like, should always precede can I.
Totally. So for a lot of, so since we are at XLRI among management students, what would you say is not necessarily as people who specifically want to work in the technical aspect of AI, but want to be business leaders and are working with AI as business leaders, what would you say is one core non-technical skill that a management student at this level should build right now so that they stay relevant for, say, the next 5 years as we work and progress with such rapid technology like AI?
I think it is the ability to deal with ambiguity and also problem framing in a situation of ambiguity. I think that is critical. And the reason I say this is we are stepping into a world where, or we probably have already stepped into a world where there's a lot of gray area. There are a lot of unknowns. So gone are those days when you used to do these typical transformation journeys where the client used to tell us that, okay, this is what I expect of you, right? And that is when we had people with more static skill sets, if I can put it that way. Let's say a developer or let's say a marketing analyst. Okay, we know that these are their roles and they have to do it. They finish the job. We do a testing and it's done. But now there is a lot of ambiguity in the problem itself. Your clients are going to come and tell you that I want to see how agents can actually add value to me. So that's your ambiguity. And then you have to start asking questions to the clients. And that's where I said problem framing becomes very important. You'll have to frame your problems very diligently and ask and have a conversation with clients on, okay, is this really important? It's again the should I, can I thing. Is this really important? Do you need to agentify? If you need to agentify, do you really need to do it now or maybe in phase 2? So that is important. And at the same time, maybe at a slightly technical level, the way you talk to the AI model, that's for that also the ability to frame a problem, that's important because the way you talk to your AI model really depends or that really decides the sort of output you will get. But more than that, it's the ability to exist in a state of ambiguity, the ability to frame the correct questions. I think that's a non-technical skill which all leaders, especially leaders from MBA schools, should definitely have in their armor.
So one of the panels that we had today were discussing specifically on the topic of ethics related to AI. So I would say the scaling AI responsibility seems like the new challenge that we are facing since most of the businesses now have in some form or the other have adopted to AI in their day-to-day workings. So where would you say is the biggest gap in this process of responsibly scaling an AI? Would you say that we have a lack of compliance or governance? Or would you say that the talent in the market who are dealing with AI specifically do not have the awareness about the ethics that have to go into the business in specific? Or would you say it's like a third unknown problem that we are not aware of in general as of now?
I think it's a lack of talent. Because see, governance frameworks can be written. Okay, you can always write frameworks. But as I said earlier, you need a human to actually validate those and ensure that they are in place. And I feel one of the areas where we do lack is the talent to actually ensure that you are following all those principles, right? So I think that's actually where MBA schools can play a huge role in ensuring that the students actually come up with the immunity to bridge that talent gap here. Because as I said, while frameworks remain important, but right now I think there is a crunch of talent to ensure that there is responsible AI at scale.
So, since we are moving towards the end of the podcast, I'd have a few rapid fire questions, and I'd specify what you have to do before each one of them. So, for the first one, I'll give you two options, and you pick between any of those, and you give me a reason why you picked that particular answer. So, the first one is that you imagine a world with AI where it is 100% accurate, but has no creativity. Or would you prefer an AI which is highly creative, but it lies for 10 to 20% of the time, and it is up to you to decide what to do about when it lies and how are you going to proceed with it? So what would you pick?
I think the one which is 90% accurate but has creativity. And the reason I say that is you can improve accuracy, it can be improved, but imagination or creativity, it's very difficult to improve that. So yeah, I take the one with 90% accuracy and a lot of creativity rather than the other one.
My next question, so it's a fill in the blanks. I give you a statement, and at the end of it, you have to give me your most appropriate answer according to you. So the most valuable currency in the age of AI will not just be data, but will be something else. So you have to fill in the blank.
Judgment.
And my final question to you is basically to end the note, to end the podcast on a good note. It's if you could write one rule into the code of every AI model in existence today, what would that rule be?
That if the decision which the AI takes has a very profound impact, especially on humans, then it should err on the side of humans if it has to err at all.
Wonderful. So in my mind, I made copious notes, and I am sure the people who are watching the podcast would have done so as well. So thank you so much for taking out time and discussing such an important topic that we see in our, we literally hear about AI on a day-to-day basis. We are using AI on a day-to-day basis, and it is very important for all of our students in an MBA program to know how to deal with it once we emerge as leaders in the near future. So thank you so much for taking out time and in getting involved in this conversation with all of us. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.